So welcome back to those who attended the first session of today's programming. This is session 2, and my name is John Hanover. I'm a partner at Austin & Bird in the construction practice group. This session actually is, I think, a really dynamic session. We're going to hear from a number of speakers, both from the AGC, the Associated General Contractors Organization, and also from a program called Construction Ready. That is a Atlanta-based program at the moment, but something I think we'll all be learning more about as they continue to grow and provide their program to the industry. So first, we're going to hear from Bryn Hunnicky, who is the Associated General Contractors Director of Diversity and Inclusion. The AGC, for those who don't know, is the AGC of America is the leading association for the construction industry. It has more than 27,000 members, including 6,500 general contractors, 9,000 specialty contracting firms, and over 10,000 service providers that they connect through a network around the country of chapters that are included in that. And today with us is Bryn. She has been working at the AGC for more than 10 years. And for the last 5 years with the AGC, she has served as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and Engagement with that organization. In that role, she coordinates AGC programming, marshals the diversity and inclusion resources that are available to the industry, and shares that with the members and today with all of us. Bryn graduated from the University of Minnesota in Duluth and earned her certificate in strategic diversity and inclusion management from Georgetown University. So please welcome Bryn, and thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for that kind introduction and for inviting me to speak today and share AGC's newest program, which is Culture of Care. And, before I get into what Culture of Care is, I just want to give a little background about the program and how it started. So like John said, I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. I work with a steering committee of members that help me identify and develop and drive AGC's strategic diversity and inclusion initiatives. So when we started and created the steering committee back in 2017, the first priority for the steering committee was to build awareness about the strategic imperative for diversity and inclusion in the construction industry, and to talk not just about how it's the right thing to do, but why it makes business sense for construction companies. So in 2018, AGC released a report on the business case for diversity and inclusion in the construction industry, which details how companies that are more diverse and more inclusive have higher profits, increased productivity and employee retention, have better safety records, have increased market share, and are more innovative, among other things. So once we laid that groundwork with our members, started to build that awareness around the need for diversity and inclusion and for companies to focus on diversity and inclusion, the logical next step for us was to create a program to help companies create those inclusive cultures. So while all of this, AGC of America was doing this work, one of our chapters, AGC of Washington in Washington State, was going down a similar path. In 2018, they had an incident happen on a member company job site. An incident of racism that happened on that job site outside of Seattle. And the chapter recognized that they needed to do something to prevent it from happening again. And so the company worked with AGC of Washington, and the AGC of Washington partnered with the Urban League of Seattle to develop a program that would allow companies to be proactive and take a proactive approach towards building an inclusive culture, as opposed to waiting for an incident to happen and taking a reactive approach after another incident happened. So in 2018, the AGC of Washington and the Urban League of Seattle launched Culture of Care locally in Washington state. So in 2019, as we had finished our report at AGC of America, and we're looking to take that next step and create a program to help member companies build more diverse and more inclusive cultures. The program that AGC of Washington started with Culture of Care seemed like a really logical fit for us. And so we partnered with them to take what they created in Washington state and turn it into a national campaign, which we officially launched this March, or this past March, in conjunction with our annual convention. So what is Culture of Care, and what is it asking companies to do? Well, we're asking companies to make a public commitment to creating diverse and inclusive workplaces by taking the Culture of Care pledge. So CARE is an acronym. You can see it there. It stands for Commit, Attract, Retain, and Empower. And these are the 4 pillars that we're asking companies to agree to. So that is to commit to hire and pay based on skill and experience, to attract prospective employees by creating inclusive workplaces that are free from harassment, hazing, and bullying, to identify and remove barriers to advancement and be able to retain those high-performing employees. And this one is really important, and I think is often overlooked in these 4. But it's really important because if you have, a diverse workforce, for example, but maybe not diverse leadership, you as a company really need to look at why that is. Why aren't those employees moving up into leadership? What are those barriers, those unintentional barriers that may have been created that don't allow that upward mobility? Or maybe, another example could be, you have a really diverse pool of candidates that are applying for a job within your company. And as you're going through the interview process, when you get to the second round of interviews, all of a sudden you see those diverse candidates fall out of that pool and don't ultimately get hired. Well, what is it about that second round of interviews that's creating a barrier for those individuals moving and getting hired within your company? So it's really important to try and look at all of your programs and policies and try and identify where those barriers exist. And then the last pillar is to empower every employee to be able to promote a culture of diversity and inclusion, or a culture of care. So creating that safety within your company to allow your employees to be champions for diversity and inclusion. So what happens after you take the company pledge? Well, the first thing that happens after you complete the pledge form on the Culture of Care website is your pledge is sent to me for approval. I obviously don't deny any company pledges. It's just a way for me to make sure there are no spelling errors and your website is linking correctly to your company name, those kinds of things. But once I've had the opportunity to approve your pledge, within 48 hours, you get a personal email from me thanking you for your pledge and recommending some first steps that your company can take to start to live out the Culture of Care pledge. And the first thing that we really ask you to do is to communicate to your employees that you've signed the Culture of Care pledge, what it means for your company, and most importantly, what it means for them as individuals. So we have developed a sample email that you can send to your employees, customize it, send it out to your employees to let everybody know that you've taken the pledge and what the next steps are and what the impact is on them. As part of that draft email, we also encourage employees to take the personal pledge that's on the Culture of Care website. So unlike the company pledge, which when you take the company pledge, we put your company name up on the Culture of Care website and acknowledge the fact that you've taken that pledge. We don't do that for personal pledges. So nobody has to be afraid that their name is going to be splashed all over the website for having taken this personal pledge. But we felt it was really important to have a personal element to this campaign and have there be a way for every individual to interact and to connect with the campaign and to make a personal commitment to yourself that you are going to be an ally and a champion for diversity and inclusion or for culture of care within your own respective company. So we have had companies, so once you take the personal pledge, you also get a thank you email from me thanking you for taking this personal pledge, and sharing some of the resources that exist on the Culture of Care website to build knowledge about how to be an ally or a champion for culture of care. We have also had companies take this personal pledge and encourage their employees that have taken this pledge to forward that thank you email that comes from me, to a designated person within the company. And they use that as a way to acknowledge and to recognize those people that have taken the pledge and become those allies or those champions for culture of care. One of the things that they do with that is use that personal pledge as a way to hand out hard hat stickers. So we have a number of hard hat sticker artwork that's available for you on the website. And you certainly don't have to utilize it in that way. You can hand out hard hat stickers to all of your employees, which we encourage that as well. But we think it's really important to have visual reminders on your job sites and in your office spaces as well. Visual reminders about what culture of care is and what the behavior expectation is for your employees. So having things like hard hat stickers and job site posters are not just, promotion for culture of care, but they are really meant to serve as a proactive way for you to communicate what your company culture is and what the expectation is, both for your employees as a reminder, but also serve as a really great way for somebody who's walking onto one of your job sites for the first time or into an office space for the first time. It's a really great conversation starter. Somebody sees, we are a culture of care poster on the wall. Well, what does that mean? What is that? So it invites a conversation for individuals who don't know to ask about culture of care, but also a reminder for your employees to see it and say, oh, hey, you may be new to this office, but just an FYI, like this is how we act here. So it's a really great proactive way to talk about company culture. Because one of the things that we find, and one of the worst things that companies can do, is to, have a mission and a value statement, to write them down, to post them on a website, maybe put them in an employee handbook, but then never really talk about company culture again. And especially in an industry like construction, where we're so decentralized and we have different employees on different job sites and, subcontractors coming in and out of those job sites on a daily basis, without proactively talking about culture of care and making sure that you are reinforcing your company culture and what's expected on an ongoing basis, you allow culture to just kind of form naturally based on who is on the job site that day, what the personalities are of those employees. And that may or may not be the culture that aligns with what your stated values are as a company. So you really need to work and be proactive about addressing company culture. So also, in addition to some of those more visual reminders about culture of care, we've also developed a number of policies and sample policies for you to utilize. So the first one is our model company policy, and it is meant to be included in something like your employee handbook. It walks through what a culture of care is and what those behavior expectations are for your employees, and the consequences of not adhering to those behavior expectations. And then the 20 HR best practices for diversity in construction outlines kind of the employee life cycle and what happens through that employee life cycle and how you can look and identify those barriers to advancement. We also have 3 Toolbox Talks that you can utilize with your employees that walk through more in depth about what culture of care is, what it means for individuals, and how they can proactively and personally work to establish an inclusive culture on their job site. So what are those skills that they can do and how can they create that culture and or intervene if they witness a behavior that isn't in line with a culture of care. So we have a number of ongoing efforts that are happening with culture of care too, that are going to be coming out in the next few months, over the next year, but this isn't meant to be a stagnant campaign. So we're continuing to build tools and resources, including an assessment and benchmarking tool and some additional education and training resources for companies that take the culture of care pledge. So we want to continue to support your efforts in building an inclusive culture and providing resources to help companies continue to have this conversation and grow their culture within their companies. And you'll be in really good company if you take the culture of care pledge. We have received an overwhelmingly positive response to culture of care. Like I mentioned, we launched in March of this year, which was not great timing. We launched in early March and in conjunction with our annual convention, and then came back to the entire country shutting down the following week. So we obviously all had to pivot a little bit and focus on the immediate threat that was in front of us. So we really didn't more kind of nationally and formally launch culture of care until about mid-May. But we have seen since then, and last week we just hit a really great milestone of having 400 companies take the culture of care pledge. So this is just a very small sample of some of the companies that have taken the pledge and made the culture of care commitments. And we hope that you'll join and be a part of culture of care. Like I said, it's continuing to build resources and to provide value for the companies that take the pledge. So you can find all this information on the website there, buildculture.org, or you can always email me or call me if you have any questions about the campaign. AGC of America really wants this to be a resource for the industry, not just for our members, but for anybody who is involved in this industry, to be able to create the most welcoming and inclusive industry that we can. So thank you for allowing me to share it today. And Debbie, I think I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Bren. That was great. Next up, I am really excited to hear from Scott Sheeler and Vita White from the Construction Education Foundation of Georgia. They'll also refer to it as sefka. And they're going to tell you about the Construction Ready program, which is a program that I am glad to say, but surprised to say that I just recently learned about. So Scott started with sefka in 1998, and under his leadership, sefka, which you'll learn more about, has received national recognition for its annual Career Expo and Skills USA State Championships, which draws more than 9,000 attendees annually, and its Construction Ready program, which has trained and placed more than 1,000 Metro Atlanta residents in the construction industry just in the last 6 years. Vita started her career in the construction industry as the workforce development coordinator for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, as the construction team leader, where 170 West Side Atlantans completed the Construction Ready training program and started their construction careers working on the stadium project. Upon the completion of the stadium project in August of 2017, she continued her career for sefka and currently leads the recruitment team for the Construction Ready training program to identify viable candidates for the program. So Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all today. I want to talk to you a little bit about sefka. I'm the president and CEO of sefka. We put people to work in the construction industry. That's the best way to sum up what we do. But we have a particular focus on the skilled trades like electrical, heating and air conditioning, welding, and carpentry. We help people get the training, the industry credentials, and most importantly, the connections with leading construction employers throughout Georgia. We're best known for our Construction Ready program, which is what we're going to talk with more about today. That program focuses primarily on adults ages 18 years and older, but we also do a lot of work in the K-12 space through something we call our K-12 pipeline, which targets youth from elementary grades up through high school. And then Debbie also mentioned our Career Expo that we do each year. that attracts a little over 9,000 attendees. And that's a basically big interactive event to get young people in particular excited about careers in the construction industry. But today we want to talk to you more about Construction Ready because we've seen the power that this program has in terms of making our industry and companies more diverse and inclusive. The first thing to know about Construction Ready is that it was started in 2014 in partnership with the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation. Arthur Blank, of course, is a co-founder of the Home Depot and owner of the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United. Back in 2014, Mr. Blank set out to build a brand new world-class stadium here in Atlanta. But even more important and more ambitious than that, he cast a vision to help transform one of the most socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhoods in the United States. He made it very clear that he did not want to build this first-class stadium right across the street from the despair that we see in our cities on the West Side here in Atlanta in particular. And so he set a vision, and I love this quote that he shared in the Atlanta Business Chronicle in 2014. He said, "We will get a stadium done, and in my opinion, it will be one of the finest stadiums in the world. The stadium is one measure of success. The long-term measure of success will be transforming the communities around the stadium. We want to make a difference in these communities. And when I walk the streets there, especially on the west side of Atlanta, the biggest need is jobs." So sefka and our employer partners worked with Mr. Blank's foundation to create a construction training program that would prepare local residents to work on Mercedes-Benz Stadium and on other major projects throughout the city of Atlanta. Thanks to the leadership of general contractors on Mercedes-Benz Stadium, including Holder Construction Company, Hunt Construction Group, H.J. Russell and Company, C.D. Moody Construction Company, and dozens of their trade contractors, we were able to place 170 West Side Atlanta residents into full-time employment on Mercedes-Benz Stadium. To date, sefka has trained and credentialed 1,121 Metro Atlanta residents through our Construction Ready program. And of those 1,121, we've placed 1,084 into full-time employment. I'll also share with you that 96% of our students that go through the Construction Ready program so far have been African American. So in addition to addressing the skills gap in our industry, we are helping to make our industry more diverse and inclusive. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our Associate Director of Student Success. She was introduced a little bit earlier by Debbie, but Vida is so unique because she actually worked on Mercedes-Benz Stadium for over 3 years. And so she saw on the ground what it looked like to bring our graduates on board to work on that stadium. And today she's going to share a little bit more about her experience and a little bit more about the Construction Ready program. So Vida, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Scott, and thank you all for having us. My experience working on the Mercedes-Benz Stadium project was very rewarding for me, and it helped me to understand where I need to be to help people get to the next level in their career. So working with sefka, and I knew at that time that that's where I needed to be to continue to engage with people in the community to help them get through this program to get started in their career. The Construction Ready training program is a 20-day boot camp style, drug-free and background-friendly training program. We started out in 2014 with 1 training location and have since expanded to 4 training locations throughout Metro Atlanta. Our students come from all walks of life, ranging from people with advanced degrees to those without formal education, and people with various levels of construction experience. Construction is not hammers and nails. It has become more sophisticated by utilizing technology in how we build. During the course of the program, each of our students earn up to 8 industry recognized credentials. On the 19th day of our program, the students participate in what we call the hiring fair, where employers come to the classroom and interview with each student, sort of like speed dating, as Scott would call it. The hiring fair is designed to allow students and employers to rank each other for a close to perfect match. At the end of the day 19, the Construction Ready staff match all the 1-to-1s and 2-to-2s and so on. providing that all students match with an employer. On the 20th day is our graduation. Each student will have a match envelope to open and share with their family and friends where they will be going to work the following week. Now, students have explained to us the 19th day, that night is like Christmas Eve. Nervous, can't sleep, all sorts of things going on. They're wondering if they got a job, because we do not guarantee jobs, but they're just excited just to see if they were matched with an employer. Most of our students on the 20th day, when they get to graduation, they're excited and anticipating what's going to happen at the graduation. I will say this, from January 1st, 2019, up until this very day, we've had 100% placement. Right now, currently, we have more jobs than we have people. We have a class in session right now at our West Side location with 9 students that are preparing to enter into the hiring fair on December 3rd and graduate on December 4th. So as you can see, with us graduating as many people as we have graduated over these last 6 years, the students are excited to know that even if they're not getting matched with an employer through our program, they have the credentials to go out and find their own jobs. We work very hard with them to get them matched with jobs and track them throughout the first year of their career. At this time, I'd like to introduce 2 of our graduates, Ms. Andrea Searles, who graduated in September 2018 and currently works for Benchmark Management, and Mr. Ishmael Burden graduated in June 2017 and currently works for Annie Johnson. Andrea?
Hello, my name is Andrea Searles and I currently work for Benchmark Management. When I started in the program, I was kind of reluctant because of my age. I had been working in different industries over the years and I wasn't really making a livable wage. So I figured, I had no other option but give construction a try. I had done it years ago when I was much younger. And the staff at Construction Ready, they were very supportive of what my vision was. Making a livable wage was the key thing for me. So I went through the 20-day program. It was tough. They're very strict, which was a benefit to me when I actually started working again. Those skills and what they offered in terms of the course outline, but especially the credentials. So one of the things that happened to me is I started working right after the hiring fair. I was hired on as a driver for a particular company, and it was working well, but then the cold weather set in. So one of the things that Construction Ready, they mentioned to you is that they don't guarantee work. So, but they had given us the skills and helped us prepare resumes. So I started sending out resumes on my own because I was sitting home for the most part in the winter weather. So there was a company that called me, and one of the things they said caught their attention is the number of credentials. When they called me, they asked me, well, are these credentials active? And I said, yes, because I really just graduated from the program. So I went in for the interview. I followed all the guidelines that sefka trained us on interview techniques, how to talk, how to handle yourself. And prior to that, I was working as a maintenance person for a fast food restaurant. And I wasn't even making up to $30,000 a year. But with all the training and all the skills that I get from sefka, this engineering firm who I work for now, when I went into the interview, they looked at the credentials. They said, we're going to give you an opportunity. And I'm so grateful for sefka and what they did for me, because at the end of it, this company started me at a base salary over $60,000. So after the 20 days of training and maybe another 2 months, I had doubled my income. And so I'm grateful for sefka for all that they did. Thank you.
Okay, Ishmael?
Sorry. So for me, before learning of Construction Ready, I found it quite difficult to find gainful employment because of a general lack of work experience, a thin academic resume due to having to leave college for financial reasons, and a less than pristine criminal record. I found myself relegated to shifting from dead-end job to dead-end job, with no opportunity for real economic betterment in sight. Eventually, I was introduced to Construction Ready by a friend from church who happened to work for Cobb Works, which is a local career training agency. And from that moment, my life was changed forever. After applying and being subjected to a vetting process similar to the one that would be given by a prospective employer, I went through 30 days of intense, no holds barred instruction from industry veterans on every topic of construction, ranging from safety, tools and rigging, and even career building and financial planning. So after completing the training, I was able to be immediately placed with a wonderful industry leading company named Manning Johnson, starting out in housekeeping. From there, carefully following the advice of my instructors, I quickly rose to my current position as a quality control supervisor, with my hourly wage rate increasing by almost $8 within the span of 3 years. So mine is a case where someone with minimal work experience and complete unfamiliarity with construction was able to, with the systemized, straightforward instruction and realistic workday simulation provided by Construction Ready, was able to flourish into a valued and sought after leader in the field in just 3 years' time. For this reason, my case is a great testament to not only the effectiveness of the Construction Ready program and its relevance in this current time of employment instability, but also its transferability across geographic regions. And one of the primary observations I've made while working on job sites is that construction has the potential to bring together people from every walk of life, every stratum of society. You know, I've met, just as was mentioned earlier, people with advanced degrees, people with no formal education, people from various distant foreign countries that don't even speak English, but were brought together, not even speaking the same language, but able to collaborate and come together and build these great construction projects. So I think that it would serve us well as a society and as a nation to give place for that to grow even more. And I never cease to recommend Construction Ready to anyone looking not just for a job, but a career and a chance at real economic success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishmael. And thanks everyone for joining us for this session, but mostly thanks to Scott and Vida, Bren, and to our two successful graduates, Ishmael and Andrea. And I think their stories are really why we are sponsoring this session, why Alston and Bird has the initiative that it does have around diversity and inclusion, and why it really is so important for the construction industry to continue to focus on diversity and inclusion. This does conclude this session. The third session starts in now 27 minutes, which will be 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, 2:30 Eastern Time. Remember, you will have the third link to click on, which you should have gotten in your email when you confirmed your attendance at this session. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you in about 30 minutes.
Thank you.